Hello and welcome to this very exciting episode of Hospitality Talks. So today I am joined by my friend Mark McCulloch, who's going to talk to us about Hospitality Rising. Hospitality Rising is a fantastic initiative that is hopefully going to help the industry to get itself back up on its feet after the terrible 15 months we've had. But Mark, could you just introduce yourself to everybody out there? And then we'll come on to the issues that Hospitality Rising is hoping to address.
Sure. Hi, and thanks for having me. So my name is Mark McCulloch, and for those of you that don't know me, I guess a brand consultant in the hospitality industry in the main. So I've worked with brands like Yo Sushi and Pret on the inside, and before that, lastminute.com and Barclaycard. And then clients I've had from the consultancy side, anything from Ibis to Bill's to Mod Pizza to I'm trying to think what else, like so many, yeah, hundreds and hundreds.
And as warm and welcoming as hospitality is, there's an issue, right? So let's talk about that issue.
Yeah. So I'm sort of the least or weirdest person that should be talking about this, I suppose. But, you know, it can't be going unnoticed that we have a real crisis in recruitment. So, you know, it's been going on for a long time and it's nothing new, but I think we've always managed to kind of get through it. It's never been such a huge crisis. Always been chat, especially over the last 3 or 4 years, about the shortage of chefs, but sort of not on front of house as bad. However, there's been this, you know, perfect storm or perfect calamity of, you know, COVID and furlough and also things like Brexit, and they've just not helped. So we've got some issues in that, you know, home natives, I suppose, here aren't so keen to, you know, work in hospitality and be in the floor. And there's a perception of when will you get a real job? You know, you don't want this for your kids, for example. You want them to have a sensible job, you know, work in, I mean, it's their words, not mine, but, you know, work in banking or be a lawyer or whatever it is. And it's always been that way here. It's just seen as a sort of second-class job in a lot of ways.
The initiative that you're talking about is about pulling up the whole of the industry and making the industry, you know, a viable prospect for more people than it is right now, and that's essentially what we need. And so how do you plan to get there? How do you plan to get from where we are at the moment to the army be the best?
My idea was, could we all sort of chip in for this, right? And I know it sounds like we're going in a stag do on a bus, you know, we're chipping in for the driver. But, you know, it's basically, I think it's the only way we're going to do it, which is us all getting together. So the stages are quite simple. The stages are, let's be ambitious and get the best creative minds onto this that the UK has. So that's kind of step one, and I'm able to do that. So I want to step outside of hospitality because I don't think this is a hospitality problem. I think this is a nationwide thing. Mm-hmm. So the best minds out there, you know, are, for me anyway, Leiths, Saatchis, Lucky Generals, VCCP, Neverland, and then there's an interesting thought about a body called the IPA that, you know, I can talk about in a sec. So to my mind, you know, and also Adam and Eve as well. So, you know, I'd say that was the best of the best. So I'm saying let's be ambitious and let's just get the best people to do the job. And also, it's the old Rolls Royce thing, isn't it? Like price is long, you know, quality is long remembered after price is forgotten and all that stuff. Yeah. So that's a huge thing. So that's kind of step one. So step one is creation and ideation. So I would work, because I'm being a bit lazy actually, but I'll get them to help me write the brief because they'll write it better than me. And we'll get it briefed in, we'll choose the agency, and then we'll start the sort of research process, brainstorming, mind showering, whatever you call it these days. And then we'll move on to the creation of routes and campaigns. And then I'd like to be able to present those back to the hospitality industry and as my clients, I suppose, and go, what do you think? You know, are you on board with this? Or do you like one more than the other? Or can you get behind this? Or any feedback? And bearing in mind, 400 companies got in touch. I probably can't take 400 sets of feedback, but, you know, I'm hoping through the steering group or the board, you know, whatever we're going to call it, and I'll come on to that in a sec, they'll be able to guide us and, and make sure it's right. So the thinking is that we chip in for it, as I said. I think the first cost, this is where everyone falls off their chair, but I think the first cost will be something like £250,000. So it'll be 250 grand.
Mm-hmm.
However, if 50 companies gave us 5 grand, and quite a few have done already, then from that point of view, it's not that crazy a thought. The other thing is, if we look to go with someone like the IPA, they're seeing this as a social project, not a commercial one. Therefore, the creative fees are a lot lower. We get 10 of the best agencies working on it through that body. Mm-hmm. And it might even be, just down to production cost only, which would save a fortune. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say it, that so the money stops going in, but I just think it could be a cute way to play it, and it means we could spend more on the amplification. Mm-hmm. So then the second part is the amplification. So once we have the campaign and it's called Hospitality Rocks, or I don't know, I mean, it won't be called that, I'll tell you now, but something like that. So whatever it's called, then it's about the media planning. And it's us going out to media planners, and this is everyone from, like our sort of media channels, anything from TikTok to TV to local radio to, and the most exciting thing about local digital TV now and stuff like that is you can get it down to postcode level on Sky. Right. So you can even almost talk so like cutely into like an area or a postcode that's almost Right. And also you hear Zoopla and stuff doing it all the time, and they're like, they'll mention the area. I mean, I live in Brighton, so the area of Brighton that you're in, and your ears prick up, when you hear, oh yeah, when so and so was looking for a flat in Kemptown, you're like, oh right, okay. So that's kind of cool. We can do the same on TV, so it becomes a lot more like social media does. And also, a lot of these media owners have budgets for causes like this where they might actually give us some money. And then in terms of the money raising as well, I'm not really just looking for operators, of course. I think suppliers have to put in, I'm saying the royal we, not you or anything, but the royal we is, we have our houses because of hospitality, right? So, I think it's only fair that we chuck in a bit. Yeah. And some of them will be multi-million pound companies because they sell veg to, people or whatever. So there's that. And then I think there's government stuff as well. I think we might get lucky on some government funding too. So that, and then what's going to come out the back of it all is once we've got the campaign, once we've got it on all the channels, I see this might change, but I see there being 3 levels. So like Eat Out to Help Out, here's another example. We'd want that government-sized campaign so that it's everywhere and you can't not notice it. And then down the bottom level, then anyone that owns a hospitality business gets access to the assets that they're free to use on their, recruitment ads and stuff if they want to, and that won't cost them anything, right? They don't have to put in if they don't want to. But then there's a middle bit, which is the sort of true supporters or more, bigger supporters of it all. Also, we might select some wild cards for smaller businesses as well. But I'm thinking if you're in Leeds, you would then have Arc, New World Trading, Dirty Martini, and it's like Deliveroo would do, say, hey, have Deliveroo, but you can get dishes from Dishoom, your sushi, you know what I mean? So I think it would be like that people would feel that they're getting something back, from it. Mm-hmm. But I think, and this is where you really fall off your chair, I think to do this well, I think you would be looking at 2.5 to 5 million quid. Mm-hmm. To do it well.
Surely, the payback for something like this, and having worked in advertising and recruitment and now hospitality, the payoff for something like this is how much, obviously getting better staff and getting people into the industry in the first place, but also, lowering that turnover of staff, lowering the amount of money they've got to spend on advertising for staff. So if I run a pub company and I've got certainly 2,000 pubs, the amount of money I'm spending on getting people to go in and work there compared to putting something together that's going to lift the entire view of the industry and the industry as a prospective place to work, surely that offsets one offsets the other.
I hope so.
That's the idea, right?
Actually, I think it's that all boats will float thought, isn't it? And I think, it's at the right level. I mean, it's going to work. It's going to shape. And it's not just a 1-year thing. Like, we would want to do this for it, like build on it and build, some of the advertising slogans that you'll say in the house, whether it's, something about meerkats or what. I mean, these things have been running for 15, 20 years, and it takes that amount of time to drip in. But it was something I was thinking about, which is, I went to see Alex Ferguson speaking, and I've used this, I thought, a lot, and I've seen him a couple of times, and both times he talked about this, and he said, the reason why we were so successful is we never worried about this Saturday's game. We only ever worried about 3 years' time. And that's the sort of mindset I'm in for this, which is there really is all the detail of where's the central website for all the jobs, I don't know yet. And actually, I don't know if if that is part of our remit. The part of our remit was shake the tree to get people interested.
Yeah.
And then we will follow a customer journey through to make sure that we capture people. But yeah, there'll be a bit of sorting out to do on that. And then I need to be mindful as well. There are other campaigns, initiatives going on in a similar vein, albeit maybe a wee bit smaller in terms of what they're asking for. Mm-hmm. So we need to make sure we don't sort of step on each other's toes and we actually help each other. So there's a little bit of complexity to it for sure.
Yeah, and I think also, what you're saying about not stepping on each other's toes, one of the are you allowed to say there's a positive from a global pandemic? I don't know, but one of the positives from my point of view is the massive amount of collaboration that has occurred in every industry that certainly we work in, whether it's grocery and wholesale or whether it's hospitality, first class restaurants. And I think that sometimes you just need something that might draw everything together a little bit, and it doesn't mean that other things can't kind of come under that banner of, look, what we really want to do is use our skills, our talents, the money that comes into the initiative to create to prove that hospitality is actually a viable option for people to work in. And I really liked what you said earlier about it's not just starts at schools, because it doesn't. I mean, I went and watched the football at a great bar last week with my stepson, who's just finished school. He, by the end of it, and several points later, he has got a trial shift there on Sunday, which is fantastic. I'm dead proud of him, because my first stepson went straight into hospitality, and now this one. But the point I'm making is that when I was speaking to him about it, he wasn't looking at this as a stopgap job. He was looking at this as a way for him to figure out where do his skills lie that he can then transport into other parts of the hospitality industry. And we're in the hospitality industry. We're a research firm. You would never have thought that I would consider myself to be hospitality, but I do. And maybe that's where his skills will end up lying. So I think of what this is about is just making sure that hospitality stops becoming that also ran opportunity for employment, I think.
Yeah. And it goes back to when I was a kid, and it was like, if you're not smart enough to go to uni or college, you go to catering college, and that was the chat. That was the chat, and and actually there was a little bit of, not rivalry, but a bit, oh bless them, with the folk over the road when we were sitting at uni, and it's terrible. That just shouldn't be that way. And I think hospitality has been in the spotlight for good and bad reasons over the last last year. And when I'm saying bad reasons, it's the fact that they've been ill-treated to a certain extent. And I think they're in the spotlight now, and there has been a big discussion, and there has been a big spotlight on it. And there are these big stats about being one of the biggest employers and bigger than oil and gas, and that's all great, but I don't know if that message necessarily lands with a kid that might want to come in, or So I think it's us really thinking about the target audiences. And then an important thing, I learned at Barclaycard from doing any communications was all about how you want someone to think, act and feel. So I think there's going to be many a spreadsheet or many a grid, really sitting, nutting that out, and actually getting it sorted to go, what is it exactly? But I think it could be hugely multi-layered. And then I'm really pleased, we're getting the board together at the moment, or steering group. I mean, probably board, but so I'm on it by default, really, not for any other reason. But I've got, I'm really chuffed, to say, Annie Opong is on it from Arc Inspirations, and that means kind of the Midlands is covered, and it's a mid-sized business, and she's an amazing leader. So really pleased about that. I've got Kate Nichols, who's a representative on earth, really. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited. I mean, like, nothing can really happen without her, I don't think, but nothing meaningful. And then we get Kenny Blair up in Scotland for Buzzworks because, you know, decent sized business again, really well known up there. He's involved in a few other hospitality groups up there, you know, so that's really good. And then, you know, I don't think I can say it, but you'll get, yeah, a huge brewer and pub company. We've got one of the biggest casual dining chains that there are.
Good. Well, I wish you all the best. Obviously, KAM will be there to support as and when and wherever we can. Perhaps we should have a chat about doing some research to find out what current opinion, etc., out there is like. I'm sure that we can put our hands in our pockets for that at the very least. One last question then, where anybody that wants to get involved in this and who isn't already, or who thinks they could represent one of those areas of hospitality that we just discussed we might need some help with, what should they do next?
Right. So if you know my contact details already, then just send me stuff. But the official ones are, there's a website called hospitalityrising.org.
Yep.
And there's also an email address, which is hello. So HE rather than HU as a Scottish person. So HELLO at hospitalityrising.org. And then on Twitter, we are Hospitality Rising Hospo Rise, sorry. Hospo Rising UK. Yeah, Hospo Rising UK. You'll get that there. So yeah, and also just a final thing to say as well, don't worry about the money. I'm not going to, you know, fly off somewhere if anyone does donate. So we're setting up a trust fund through hospitality, so UK Hospitality. So Kate's going to be in charge. She's a responsible adult. So she'll make sure nothing weird happens with it. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think Kate Nichols should at all times be everybody's responsible adult. Okay, that's fantastic. And obviously, if you are watching this online right now, then all of the links will be below because we will have put those on there. Mark, I wish you the best of luck. I think it's fantastic what you're doing. And well, let's hope that this really is a bit of a catalyst in how the world sees hospitality.
Thank you.
Thank you.